Hello, everyone. My name is Linda K. Edwards, and I am the Executive Director and founder of New Me, New You. We are a coaching organization that helps with personal and business development. We cater to individuals, families, businesses, and we help with information, resources, referrals. We do spiritual enrichment. We also do outreach, and we facilitate in-person and virtual events. Tonight, we are talking about millennials, Gen X, and Gen Z, the distinction of all generations. But before we do, I always start out with a prayer. Heavenly Father, we come before you with hearts full of hope and gratitude for the generation of today, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. Lord, we lift them up to you, asking for your divine guidance, wisdom, and protection over their lives. Bless Gen X with the strength to continue leading with resilience, wisdom, and grace. May they be steadfast in their endeavors, passing on their knowledge and experiences to the younger generation. Fill their hearts with peace and purpose as they navigate the challenges of today's world. Bless the millennials with creativity, passion, and a sense of justice. Help them to be the bridge between the past and the future, bringing innovation and positive change to society. May they find balance in their lives and embrace their unique role in shaping a better world. Bless Gen Z with courage, clarity, and compassion. As they grow and learn, may they be beacons of light and hope. Guide them to use their voices and talents to foster unity, love, and understanding among all people. Protect their hearts and minds from negativity and lead them to paths of righteousness. Lord, may all three generations find common ground in your love. Unite them in their shared purpose to create a world that reflects your grace and mercy. Fill them with your Holy Spirit so they may walk in faith, hope, and love, making a positive impact on the world. In your precious name we pray. Amen. I want to welcome these two young ladies today from each generation. And I want to discuss a few things that they have experienced throughout their lifetimes. So, ladies, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Melissa B, because there's two Melissas here. I'm Melissa B. I am a millennial because I was born in 1994, and I believe the millennial age range is 1992 to 2000, around there. And I'm really excited to talk about this as from a millennial point of view, and I hope you guys like it.
Okay.
My name is Melissa T, and I'm also a millennial. And I also am excited to partake in my views as well about my generation versus other generations as well.
Wonderful. And I just wanted to let those that are out there to know the differences between the generations, because even myself, I wasn't sure. So here it is, we have Generation X. So the birth years are from born between 1965 and 1980. So that's the Gen X generation. This generation is often characterized by its independence, resourcefulness, and skepticism. So, towards authority, they experience the transition from analog to digital technology and are known for their adaptability. They are sometimes referred to as the latchkey generation due to the rise of dual income households and working mothers. So that's Generation X. Then we have millennials, which is also known as Generation Y. So the birth years typically defined as individuals born between 1981 and 1996. And their characteristics are known for their familiarity with technology. Millennials come of age during the rise of the internet and social media. They are often characterized by their values of inclusivity, social justice, and work-life balance. This generation faced economic challenges such as the 2008 financial crisis, which influenced their views on work and financial stability. Then we have, last but not least, Generation Z. So the birth years generally defined as those born from 1997 to the early 2000s, 2010s, 2020, 12. So characteristics. This generation is the first to grow up with smartphones and social media from a young age, making them digital natives. They are known for their activism, especially around issues like climate change and social justice. Gen Zs tend to prioritize mental health and is often seen as pragmatic and entrepreneurial. So these are the definitions. So now that we got that out of the way, ladies, are you ready?
Yes.
Are you sure? You don't sound like you're ready. Are you ready? You sure?
Yes, we
Yes, ready.
All right, because here we go. All right, so we have social values and identity, technology and communication, education and career, lifestyle and consumption, relationships and family, politics and activism, and future outlook. So I'm going to pick from any one of these topics, ask you the
Okay.
question, and don't worry, it's not a right or wrong answer. It's what you feel, okay, and what
Okay.
you want to answer, okay?
Yes.
So we're going to start with lifestyle. Melissa B, we're going to start with you. So here it is. How do spending habits differ among Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z?
Definitely. So for millennial lifestyle, it's more, I felt like everything was developing. I feel it had to have been in the 2000s when things started changing besides the technology. I feel like, well, with the growth of technology, definitely it became more easier to access like clothing stores, furniture places. I think back in in the 90s, it was all like very, what is it, retro vintage style. So it had like a lot of collars, a lot of cargo pants. Um and definitely a very like the funky makeup and like the hairstyles was different. Um and compared to what is it? And compared to Gen Z style, I feel like Gen Z style is more sophisticated. I think it's leaning more towards classy, definitely more fashionable statements. Definitely the smaller like little jewelry here and there made more statement than, let's say, like the big makeup, the eyeliners, everything. I feel like the simplicity of Gen Z kind of outranked the style for millennials. And I think again I think it was more because we were also kind of what is it, mimicking the 80s as well. So it was kind of like a merge between with the 80s and the 90s style. It was just like a mix together. And as for Gen X, I'm still not too sure. Again, I'm so young. From
Okay,
all I
you can
know,
only
because
answer what you know, right?
right, yeah, that's all I can really answer, what I knew. And then anything else before I was born, it's like history. I read it in a book, or or again with the age of technology, you couldn't find anything on the internet. But before that, it was everything was in the magazines, the articles, and newspapers. That's how really and truly, like, growing up for me, I got to or hands-on experience. Like, you could take your mother's makeup, you experiment with these things, or you go to the salon and you see the photos, and then you realize, oh, this is what, I guess this is what women are dressing into. Or is it, I would never thought it was models. I always thought, based on my experience, that seeing those photos was the fashion right now. Like, that's all I knew. I didn't think that those were models just portraying a certain style. As I got older, it was portraying a certain style, not, oh, well, maybe that's what they want to do now. This is what it is now. you
Right,
know I feel like everything just changes. I think as you just get older and you find out things and everything is advancing, you start to realize, oh, so this is what it kind of was, or this is just another perspective of it.
right, right. Okay, so now I'm going over to you, Melissa, number two, I should say, right? So here it is. I'm going to give you something in relationships and family. Okay, so how do views on marriage and family differ across these generations?
So marriage and relationship view differently on each generations. Of course, the older generations have different upbringing than the newer ones and the Gen Zs, right? So the younger generations have definitely a different outlook on marriage and respect on relationship, because the older generations basically had the luck of seeing both both partners and both spouses mostly together. That's what I view. And the values of basically um different upbringings, like how parenting was with each generations, like how do I say, respecting your elders, and also different type. Hold on one second. I need to sneeze. So okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
That was my husband.
Silence.
Yes. So basically, yeah. So like I think the older generation's views on relationship and marriage is totally different than the newer generations based on their upbringing and morals. Like I feel like not because it's more stricter back in the day, but I feel like there were more help. So the marriages seem to, for me, was more sadly like longer and like, and I don't know if it's all true about that, but this is my view, that what I see. And you know, like family got a lot of help with family as well.
Mhm. I definitely know that in our generation, my generation, that that time, like
Mhm.
you said, their parenting and what they saw was that the two were working together, and that they were
Mhm.
more, into value and working in a relationship, making sure that they could navigate through together and value each other. These days and times, they looking at it as, whatever they can get. They don't really want to stick through any thing that they go through in life with their partner. As soon as something happens, they're ready to run. And back in those days,
Yeah.
they valued each other and they tried to stick it out as long as they could. So there's a big difference from then till now. And
I did just
back,
got the sorry not to cut you off, but the definitely the divorce rate was more lower in the
mhm,
older generations and more higher in the new. That's what I view. And
right.
totally, I could be wrong, but that's what I've seen, because back in the day, like you said, they do work on things. They do. They did try to, like, the communication was different, and the values are different. I feel.
Mhm. Definitely, definitely. So I'm gonna go back to you, Melissa B.
Mhm.
Um, let's go for lifestyle.
Okay.
Okay, so how
Yes.
do spending habits differ among Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z?
Definitely, I would say the value of the dollar has gone up. That's the biggest factor, is that the value of the dollar has gone up. I feel like the older generations, again, I believe, I think there was a couple of hard times here and there. To overspend was the biggest deal. Like to spend money on, I think back in the day, groceries was cheaper, and now, for me as a millennial, definitely everything has gotten more expensive, and we tend to, let's say, we couldn't, growing up and as a kid, again, depending on how your families raised you, if you were raised to like to overspend your allowance, that's them. But there are, families that save and save and save, for school funds, and getting lunch in the cafeteria, like small things like that. I feel like the spending, I feel like for Gen Z now, I feel like now they're learning about the basis of saving and budgeting, and compared to millennials that you see, like as we got older and we feel like, okay, we have the job, we should be saving, but we tend to just indulge because we couldn't get to do that growing up. We couldn't get to buy the things we wanted. So I feel like Gen Z actually takes the cake with that one. They know now to save and to budget, and they're also looking, they're turning around and they're seeing that millennials and they're seeing that Gen X, they're like, "Oh, okay, we're seeing the spending and we're seeing the overconsumption of products and makeup and food and everything." And it's like, "Okay, and I feel like ever since like sicknesses came out, aka COVID, as things kept going higher and higher, and it will continue to go higher and higher, unless there's some sort of crash somewheres, but it will continue to go higher and higher. And the next generations will also continue to save and actually be smart about it. And now we're again, I feel like every generation, when we see the new generations, we're learning more and more as we go and as we get older.
Right, right. What we know now in as far as financial, we didn't really necessarily know then.
No.
I think that we've come a long way in financial literacy than before. Now they're taking more time
Yes.
to teach you the values of saving and
Yes,
certain
definitely.
accounts and retirement plans and 401k and stuff like that. They had it then, but it was a
More
little
educated.
different, more right.
Yes, and I feel like the education too has something to play with it. I've read comments and I've seen here and there that, why weren't we learning about 401k or taxes in school? Not even I feel like in college, maybe certain business classes and entrepreneurial classes, they actually teach you about it unless that is your major. But I feel like that should have been taught in high school at least. I personally believe that home economics, like basic cooking skills, let's just say, right, if you couldn't learn it at home, like a cooking class or something instead of just watching it. But that's what I'm saying, advance of technology, you could just pop it up on your phone and you could easily do it now. I just feel like learning about taxes and saving up for a home and mortgages, all of that, I felt like I could have learned that in high school a little bit
About
more.
it
And
more for, yeah.
yeah, and I feel like I would have taken it a lot more seriously. Not to say I don't take it seriously now. I
Yeah,
think, because people don't really tell you these things, to be very honest with you. You just kind of have to figure it out on your own. And whoever you connect with and you come across, there you actually learn more about it.
right, right. Wow. Well, this is why I love doing this because you get some really great views from everyone.
Hmm.
Okay, you ready, Melissa? You ready?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to go into education. How do
Ooh.
generational experiences with the economy impact career aspirations?
So the well, my generation, I feel like, and also the newer generation, on my point view on that, is education will was more valued back then too, because it wasn't just viewed as business, like education also is a business factor to some younger um Gen Zs, and like, so now it's like there were more values on going to school and studying, and like it was very more respected, and not just looked at as in, okay, we're just all gonna just get a job just to have a job. It was like so you could build your life and your foundation in the future and take care of yourself without anyone's help. And the way to do that is education. And with having that much education, no one could take knowledge away from you. And every generation views it differently. Like I feel like now with a lot of social media, there's different type of careers that popped up, like more like branches came out, as in like different aspect of makeup, or and also like any different type of, like, let's say back in the day, backburn type of jobs is now like a side hustle is being a real type of thing. And so they focus more on that, the younger generation, than, well, this is my point of view. So don't like, so school is very important through all generation, and education is very important, but we have more access, and due to the internet and social media, um education definitely differs. And also now, like, I mean, the newer generation education is um more online, and they do like Zoom call, like,
Yes.
and after COVID, they do a lot of like Zoom education, and like at home. And but back in the day, we didn't have all that fancy
No.
technology and all that. We had to go to school. We had books and papers, and for laptop and tablets. So generation is, I'm not saying that was more respected back then. They do, like, all generation do respect education, but the views on generation
Education.
education did change.
Yes, it did. I agree with that.
Mhm.
It did definitely change. It did view like differently. It's but it's important through all generations. But I feel like for me, what I see, like the newer ones, just quick, easy money kind of, right?
Right.
But I mean, there's nothing
It
wrong with
means
it. If
that
we had that same view back in the day, and we had access to getting education faster, or even training school or
Yeah.
anything like quicker, we would have done it too. But it's different, like it does vary from generation to generation.
Okay, okay. So we're back to you, Melissa B.
Yes.
Let's see. I was looking at something here and I'm saying to myself, which one do I do? Lifestyle or education and career? Um, okay. What role does travel play in the lifestyles of each generation?
I would say, in terms of traveling, let's see. I feel like people were always traveling, but I feel more that in for my generation or our generation, me and Mel, um, our generation and Gen Z's generation, I feel like travel became more of a leisurely thing. It became like what is it, like, you need to see the world now because there's so many problems, so you shouldn't have to deal with your problems. How do you deal with your problems? Go fly plane and go to a different country. I think it also depends on where you're living, and I feel like primarily because we're in the US and there's a lot of things going on and it's so crazy, so stressful. I
Mm,
think everyone is figuring out that in these other countries it's kind of their lifestyle's a little more less stressful and easier to deal with. But also for vacationing, um, well, as I feel like the older generations, but I feel like the traveling was more so, if we're speaking from what, like, from an immigrant parent standpoint, like our parents, like they traveled over here and they came here to make a better life for us.
mm,
But I feel like travelers that are already in the US, I feel like it was more of a business thing to go to a different country. I feel like it was more of a business thing and not really vacationing or just a leisurely travel kind of thing. I feel like that's now, like that's now because again we're finding out that um it's just how do I explain this, because I know what like I have it in my head and I'm trying to figure it out how to put into words. um I feel
mhm,
like traveling now would be, and I also feel like they were telling us all, like I feel like growing up you had people that were like, you travel, see the world a little bit, and then they were like my parents or like somebody else older that was next to me be like, oh no, what are you telling her, like she doesn't know anything about traveling, like what is she going to do with that? And as I got older I feel like traveling is honestly to ease your mind, like you see where other people, like how other people live from different countries, and you experience like what are they experiencing and compared to living here in the US. But I think that's how I see travel, how it plays between all the generations. I feel like um I definitely feel like traveling would be very beneficial actually. you get to see how other people live, and you do compare it to yourself. And if you want to make
Do you mean
changes,
do you
where
mean in the older generation, or do you mean right now, the generation now?
I feel like right now, and if I could advise, I guess, anyone from all different generations, I guess I would also advise, hey, travel, actually. Because it is true, you do have one life to live, and it's like you want to experience the world. Like you have the world literally on your cell phone. That's true, but
Right.
it's not the same as physically seeing the beaches or the scenery, the forests, the hills, the
The
mountains, the
history.
oceans.
Mhm.
It's not the same as looking at it at your phone. And I know I'm giving that advice. I'm the actual wrong person to ask about this because I don't travel often. But if I could like, if I wasn't having these like sort of illnesses, I actually would travel like all the time. I probably wouldn't even be in the US right now. I would be somewhere else.
Right, right. Wow. Well, I value your opinion, and I mean, hey, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Listen, you described it as best that you knew how, right?
Yes.
So this is okay. So here it is, Mel. You ready? This second Mel. Okay. Watch this.
Healthy.
I know you're a parent and you are a wife. So how do you feel about the parenting from, back in the day compared to right now? Do you think that it was more stricter then and it's or stricter now?
So I feel like only like, I mean, as being a mom, I could say like no one thinks that they are doing the wrong way of parenting, and their style, they do believe that they're doing the best. I do believe that back in the day was stricter only because they only see what they were taught. So if
Yes.
their parents were strict, like if both mom, the father and mother were strict, then the child is also going to follow that. Then it's going to bring up on their children and so forth. But now with all the resources and the education and how to talk to your children a certain way without being always strict, and like you can communicate as well, like it I feel like, not going to lie, my younger generation on that, I will give the cake, even though like being strict, like being in the middle is what I prefer. I try to be where I am like trying to be a mom, like my mom raised me and
Mm.
my older generation raised me, but also I love the I
The
love the yeah, I love the
gentle
understanding,
parenting.
like
Mhm.
opening and more comfortable talk of the newer generation. So I try to balance it out. But yes, I do believe the older generations of parenting is was more stricter, because not that they were stricter, they had different values and morals on how to raise their children.
Yes.
And the younger generations see their parents were being stricter, so they tried to like lessen, not lessen it, but tried to like not lenient, but more understanding, where they don't want to feel like they're scared to tell their parents certain things or talk about, like they want to be in the middle ground. So they want to come to their moms and dads, and I always want my daughter to come to me for everything. I tried to be like not one of, kind of like my father, where he was really strict and I was scared to tell him everything, but because he was strict, I have my morals where I know my 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 step, and like where I'm, my place in life. But I also like, I'm not saying like others don't. I just feel like it's way different. It's definitely different. It's more of a different perspective. And no parenting is the wrong parenting, but yes, I do believe that the older generations were more stricter than the newer generation.
Right, right. They actually were. There was a lot of things that I can
Yes.
tell you right now that my parents would not allow
Yes.
in my days. I am not saying that you should, you know, um, you know, be so overbearing or crazy, but it did work because you see, I'm here. I mean, I'm not, the generation now has gotten too much more leniency. And that's
Yes.
Yeah.
why these kids are literally hurting their parents. Parents are actually scared of their children right now. Back in the day, if our parents told us not to move, it was you do not move.
Yes.
There was no talking back, because if you talked back, you didn't have any teeth. And
Yes.
Child protective services, because if they did, your parents was bold enough to say that they'll beat you all the way to the time when the person comes to pick you up. So, not
And
saying it was right or
something
wrong,
we would
not
get.
saying that it was right or wrong. It's just that um they took heed to the parents better then than now. Now you got kids telling their parents to shut up, telling them, no, I'm not going to do nothing. And if you do something to me, I'm going to call CPS on you and the cops. They got a lot more leniency right now. And that's why you have kids killing their siblings, killing their parents. Because see, back in the day, how many cases have you heard of parents getting killed or getting, manipulated by their children? I mean, it has happened. Don't get me wrong. It was you know around back then, but not as much as right now.
Yeah, I wanted to add to, like, I, as a millennial still living home with her family, I still have to respect to, like, but I think my parents now sort of eased down, but yes, they were very strict. I couldn't have any friends, I couldn't have any boyfriends, I couldn't do this, couldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. And my older sister had to step in and actually be that parent for me. So I give my older sister all of that respect. Like, I do look at her as a mother, but then, that's my sister, because we're still like learning about each other, like our dislikes, our likes now as like sibling to sibling. But instead, growing up, she was like my second mother. And I know, yeah, still being home, they are strict, but I mean, they see with my age that they have to lessen that a little bit too. And there was something else I wanted to, like, every now and then, like, how I feel like now they have children's shows now. They have shows where they actually approach gentle parenting, or actually not to be too strict on a child, but it's to show, like, for them to learn values and lessons. For example, like, now children these days, they watch what, like, blue like Cocomelon and all those things. And then there's a thing that's out, actually, I know it's a separate topic, but it's about kids and families and strictness. There's a thing that's called brain rot. Brain rot is those random videos that pop up on kids' iPads or tablets. It's even on YouTube Kids, and it's just a bunch of noise, a bunch of sounds, a bunch of weird animations, and sometimes whoever created those, they like to incorporate little subliminal adult entertainment messages. And if you're not aware, like, like the strictness, again, like, this generation has so much leniency. Sometimes, like, they'll just, a parent, like, if they're so fed up with their kids, hey, take an iPad, and then there's no
Right.
supervision. Everything, there's access to anything. Like, the kid is just gonna look at it and be like, oh, it's just a bunch of noise. It sounds very catchy. And then, it's crazy. And
It takes the innocence away. Yeah.
yeah. So I, like, if anything, like, if I were to have kids, I don't have any kids, but I have two nieces. Honestly, I do the gentle parenting approach, but I could be a little strict like my mother, how she grew up with me. And I'm still learning to kind of take a step back and don't do that, because we're not supposed to repeat what they call generational curses and generational traumas, because, we're trying to move past it, like past all the strictness, all the trauma that we went through. So I sometimes try to catch myself when I'm doing it, and I take a step back and I say, okay, I can't do this. I can't do this to nobody's kids either. I'm not the parent to their kid. How the parent raises their kid is how they raise their kid. I
Sure.
could give an
No
insight.
manual. There's no manual for parenting.
And there is no manual. I will say one thing though, and I feel like kids are watching this too, not just kids, like young adults. My two nieces, they love watching Bluey, and if I can honestly be very honest with you, when I sit down and I actually watch Bluey with them, the approach to handle children, like the problems that as a kid, oh, I can't, this boy stole a toy from me and this and that, the fighting, there is gentle approaches on how Bluey's parents, help their kids out. And when I see that, it makes me feel like I feel like I was them. I feel like, why couldn't I receive that, like, growing up? Where was that love? Where was that compassion? Not that you're gonna get this today. Like, where was the love? You're gonna get this beat.
Because
Like,
our parents didn't get that. They only took what they knew. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that it was right, or wrong, but do you notice, even though it was a little traumatizing, yes, I agree, but do you notice that we have discipline?
Yes.
Compared to these kids now, that you think we could look at our parents. Have you ever looked at your parents and threatened them and told them you were gonna do something to them?
No,
I know.
not at all.
The thing
Not at
is,
all.
there's also a middle ground. So we don't have
Right.
to be too, too firm, because I'm strict. My sisters call me like my father. And like really with my daughter, my 4-year-old, mommy's the strict one, daddy's the cool one. I have to be the strict one, but even if I'm strict, she can still come to me. I'm really loving, I'm caring, I'm sweet, but I'm strict as well. But because of her future and education, but I also don't want her, like they did say, the more stricter there's a saying, the
Yes.
more stricter you are, the more sneakier the children are
Yes.
in the future, and they
Sure.
have trauma problems, and they anger, and they have issues, and they have resentment, and they have like so much, but they are disciplined, but they come with the price of having either anxiety, sadness, depression, loneliness, and like it comes with everything. So it's a middle ground of being strict and also being caring as well, because they are your
Yes.
child. They didn't chose to be here. We chose to have them. So even though they say like we bring you guys life, but they didn't chose that. Like we
Yes.
gave them. So like some like mothers can't even have kids, and it's a blessing to have a child. So
Right.
like we shouldn't punish them just because we want them to have discipline. It's a middle ground. That's what I believe. Like it
No,
is
I
a
believe
blessing to
in
have
that
a child.
100%. But from what I see these kids do
Yeah,
these
Right.
days,
Yes.
if they only
100%. I
had that,
totally
if
agree
they
with
only
that.
had that little strict foot to put down, not saying to frighten them or
Yes.
double
Yeah,
them or
like
to
Right.
middle.
tear them down, but there needs to be structure,
Yes.
led by example. Let mommy and daddy show you how to, react or to be or shape you. Not saying that, because everybody is going to have their own individual personality,
Yes.
but
Yes,
at
absolutely.
least give them some type of structure in how to navigate through their little lives, not to make them feel like they're little adults and that they could talk to you any kind of way and do whatever they
Because
want.
being strict, you can create good morals. And my
Right.
parents were strict, and I had no problem with. I love my dad. He was like the most strict person. I was scared when I did something wrong, but I know it's for my future, and that's why I'm a lot like my dad to my daughter, because I know I'm not like everyone praises me. Like Emma is so good. Like my daughter name is Emma, and Emma Rose Parker, Emma Rose, and she is so sweet, and everyone like congratulates me. I'm like, you did a good job, and I was like, trust me, I hope so, because my daughter thinks I'm really strict.
No, you
So,
did. I would say you did a good job with little Emily.
yeah,
That's
so like I do think you are absolutely right, because I see screaming, and like and the ones that are really strict gets them known as in my God, why is that parent so bad? Like, and then the younger generation thinks that we are too much, but we're actually not. We're trying to think about the future, but I can't talk in behalf of the younger generations, only they can.
right.
But what I see is like we did get a lot of help, like like older generation. It was like a village to raise a child, but the younger ones, sadly, they see like parents splitting up. So maybe that has an influence. That's what I think. Like that they didn't have too much help as like we had the village, and the younger ones are mostly single moms or single dads,
Right.
and like came from broken home. So like we got a lot of help. So that's why they saw like this is what it is, and I can't speak in behalf of the younger ones, but I do see a big difference on that.
And there is some leniency with some of these parents that will actually literally exploit their children on YouTube for clout, for money. And they don't see what can that do for a child. They think it's all fun and games and toys and money, money, money. Like for example, I think what was his name? Ryan? There was those toys with Ryan or something. And apparently there's a documentary on YouTube about how the mother or the father somehow they were in jail before that became such a big what is it, such a big YouTube channel, because little Ryan was making the most biggest gross on YouTube. I think it was $23 million. um
Hmm.
and I apparently, yeah, his parents went to jail, and that what, like she came out or something had happened, and then they started making YouTube content for kids, and I think they were the first family to ever create this much content, and they were getting so much money, and then the more family channels started to come out now. And again, because my nieces watch these channels, again, sometimes I have to monitor what they're watching. I try to give them privacy, but also monitor what they're looking at.
Mm.
You start to see like how these parents like are to these children, and I feel like I always think from like, what do other kids view that as? Like, oh, should I have a life like this? Like my mommy and daddy doesn't have a big bouncy house in the backyard with like 10,000 other toys. Like I
Right.
want this, so I'm gonna look at this over and over and over, and maybe I'll have it one day. I don't know. Like I used to think like with the family channels, like what are they doing? And but there are some channels that are actually good, they're educational, and they don't just do it for money. Whatever money they get, they donate it to what is it, to school, like charity events for schools and other places.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, so, and this is bleh. This is this generation of parents, like millennials. I read that 73% of millennials are parents to Gen Alpha, which is the new generation right now. It's from 2000 to 2024, or
Oh,
2010 to 2024, which is
you
Gen.
learn
So
something new every day.
yes, we are. So the new generation right now is Gen Alpha, 2010s to 2024, or maybe 2025. And 73% of millennials are the parents.
Mhm, mhm.
So I think about things like that too, and the strictness. Like I would hope behind these family channels that I mean, again, we don't know what happens behind closed doors. Maybe there is strictness, maybe there is no strictness.
Right,
Just hope that the family is safe, the children are safe, and that's it.
right, right. I thank you so much for all that great information because I didn't know any of what you're talking about, but that is awesome. I'm gonna move it on.
Welcome.
So this is
Yes.
the last question for both of you. I'm gonna do one for each one of you, and then
Okay.
I'd like for you guys to give words of encouragement or words of wisdom. Okay,
Okay.
so
Okay.
here we go. Okay, so who are we up to now? We are up to Melissa two, number two.
Yes.
Okay, so here we go. What hopes and fears do each of these generations have for the future? Any,
Me?
yeah,
Oh,
I was like,
I can't remember.
I'm
Okay,
like any day now.
wait, one more time. Sorry, Miss Linda.
Okay, no problem. So, what hopes and fears do each of these generations have for the future?
I'm not sure about fears, but hopes. I think every generation wants the best for each generations. And I feel like each generation's trying to understand the newer generations little by little. It's going to take a lot of time to put our big foot forward and try to understand each one, and we're all just surviving on the same boat, where our all goal is just to be better than the be better, just so we can teach the newer ones whatever we learned. And I don't feel like we also try to understand it's the circumstance and the outcomes of the upbringing of the older generations and the newer generations. But I feel like the hopes is that we try to teach each other like growth, wisdom, and empowerment to love ourselves just the way we are, and also to understand that even if the older ones are the older ones, to respect and honor if they want. I hope so, but you know what I mean. And also the older ones to understand and have hope in the newer ones to do good for our world that we're all living in. Because in the end of the day, we're only going through one place when we get older, and we're just the same. We could be doctors, we could be engineers, we can be everyone, but our end goal is just to survive and live amongst each generation in peace and harmony. And that's what I want for every generation. Like, because
Well
we
said,
are,
my dear.
yeah, so we are in one. I'm Christian myself. So, I mean, I don't try to put in religion, but um, speaking as a Sunday school teacher, like we do try to love each other, and that's what I hope for other ones and any all religion. Like we are just one, and we just want to understand each other, and we want the best for each other. So yeah.
Well said. I love it. I love it. Okay, so here it is. This is your final question, Melissa B. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So here it goes. You ready?
Yes.
Right.
I'm
So
going in.
how do the generations perceive the challenges facing the world today? How do they look at it? How do they see it?
Well, if I can be honest with you, I feel like Gen Z, to be very, very honest with you, is not really taking the news seriously. The challenges, I think they are looking at health issues, but if you were to bring politics into it, which I'm trying not to, politics and religion, now I feel like before I would say they're not taking religion seriously. Now I feel like they are. But in terms of politics, I would say politics they are not taking it seriously. Um, I feel like our generations we looked at newspapers every day. We heard it on the radio. We used to have 1010 wins blasting every single morning. If I can remember with my dad, he had 1010 wins on every single day.
That,
Um,
that was the radio station to listen to.
Yes, and
Mhm.
everything felt so believable. Everything it didn't feel like something was one-sided. We didn't feel like what was it? What is the word I'm looking for? It didn't feel like there was any ill intention behind these broadcasts. It just felt like it was straight news. Like this is what's happening right now. And don't get me wrong, it is still happening now, but I feel like because of politics, let me see, politics, racism, there's more factors into this. Like, for example, you have CNN, then you have Fox. Everybody knows that Fox represents Republicans. If I could be wrong, I'm sorry to bring up politics, and CNN is more
No,
Democratic.
you're
I
saying it.
feel like it now, it's just no one is really I feel like they're not choosing a side. And if they're choosing a side, it's probably based on the what party they believe in. Definitely I feel like now people are just not taking it seriously. And they're believing more um into religion,
So
which is good, which is what it should be, to be honest with you. I feel like now the younger generation is taking religion a little more seriously. Um, but like anything to do with the public or the public eye, I feel like everyone's on edge about those things. And I feel like you see that the thing is not even social media can portray a lot of real stuff either. You know, we can bring awareness right now and someone who could be watching us or whatever we post, they may not believe it, but they'll probably believe it years later. And
Right.
it's just I feel like it's just how it is. History repeats itself, honestly.
Oh,
And that's the thing. I feel like we don't I I feel like the answers to everything, like now I just started going way off and think about what are the answers to the world now. But I'm trying not to go that far. But I feel like this generation now should, I mean, not take politics seriously, but they should probably choose a side that is what they believe in. If it's and hopefully it's in something that is the right thing. But again, you know, there's something that I started hearing about what is it, perspectives, because we have a friend that always talks about perspectives. And he always used to say, Mel, what could be right to one person may not be right to another person. What's wrong to one person may not be wrong to another person. And it's like when you think about things like that, it's like what is right and then what is wrong, and then you think back to what you believe in when you were a child, with reading the Bible, reading the Bhagavad Gita, reading the Quran, reading religious texts, and you feel like, okay, with everything that's going on wrong in the world, like you believe like in these texts, like whatever is right, that should be right, because there's so much wrong in the world. We should be like writing, like, like what is it, writing over the wrongdoings with things that are good. um but yeah, I'm going off topic now, but I feel like our generations, we only believed in what media from the radios, article newspapers. It felt more, and there were real world events, and now the world events that are happening now, I feel like they are taking that seriously, though. I'm not gonna lie. The world events, anything with world wars, that is a serious thing now, which is a good thing. But like anything with political parties in the US is like, but I feel like now, to be honest with you, for this election, it's gonna get serious.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, Ladies, you have been amazing. Thank you
Yay.
for being on this platform. But before we go, I would like to ask if there's any words of encouragement for any of the generations or all of the generations.
Um,
Melissa,
I would say it never hurts to ask. It never hurts to communicate with somebody. If you have any questions about something you wanted to know from the past, ask. Because not everything is written in stone, not everything is written or online. You'll never find it unless you meet somebody, honestly. Like connection, believing in connection is a real thing. Definitely, I would not hesitate to ask if there's something you don't know. Like again, like what Mel was saying too, we're all in the same area. We're all in the same boat. We're all trying to learn this, what we call life. Like, what is life? If you have any questions, just ask somebody. It doesn't hurt to ask somebody in real life and what they went through. You
or
learn from their
the history,
experiences as
that's
well.
what I say. Learn the history of those generations and try to compare the things that they might have been through or the things that could help you within your generation and their, so on and so forth. But Melissa, second, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Words of wisdom is definitely what Mel B said. Definitely try to understand the point of view or the perspective of the like each generation, the older ones and the new ones. I myself, from my intake, I try to understand the new ones, totally understand my older generations. I totally leave
Hmm.
them with so I
Yes.
totally get where they're definitely coming from. I try to be an open eye with the new ones and understand why. And sometimes I do feel bad that didn't get that much try to understanding of the older ones, and maybe that's why they are the way they are, but I never said that they were wrong or right. Like it's just basically like
A learning
understanding, like
experience
what
too.
else definitely. Like I totally agree on the same standpoint. Like it doesn't hurt to ask, and also like educate yourself on educating on different generations and upbringing and perspective and what they got to like get help and why they are the way they are before judging a different generation. It could be the new ones, it could be the old ones. And when I see the new ones, I do feel like some type of way, and I feel, not saying I feel bad, like they don't understand why the older ones are this like,
Yes. Hmm.
because I am like in the older generation definitely.
We have
Um
the older mentality, like the older mentality in a way, but it's more about like safety and nothing. Like again, we had I wouldn't say shelter, but it was like we had to pretty much, well, probably not me. Like I felt like my friend Mel, she's an older sister, and then I have an older sister. They had to go through a lot of experiences to get to where they have to be today to give that sort of advice to their sisters, like for me or for Mel's sisters. So
They say
it is a learning
it's a great.
experience. Yes.
So, and it really truly is when, if you haven't experienced something in life, whatever it may be, there will be no way you'll understand. Because I could tell you thousands and thousands of times, and you could only imagine. But going through it, navigating through it, and actually feeling it, and just going through, you'd be like, oh, now I understand what they had to go
Mhm.
through. I understand why they're the way they are. I understand why, things are going the way they're going. Is because they've experienced something that you never have. So when they tell you, okay, listen, guys, I've been through this before, so I don't want this to happen to you now. And
Yes.
you're like, yeah, 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 you brush it off
Yeah.
until when it actually happens to you, then you're like, oh, now I see,
Yeah, you realize
that
it later on.
exactly. So
Mhm.
my advice to every generation is to try to be mindful of all the generations, try to
Yes.
learn from one another, try to encourage each other, uplift each other, love each other, have compassion, empathy. These are the things that are missing. So I just encourage it all the time in every aspect. because we really need to do that. And then I think that things would be shaped a little bit differently, and everybody would be able to understand it a little bit more. And you're not going to understand everything, because I mean, you know, we never do, but at least you'll get close to the idea of
Yes.
what's going on, you know?
Mhm.
So I just want to thank you ladies so much for all the time that you have given me today. I am grateful for having you here. I look forward to any future you know, talks with you. And again, if there's anything you'd like to say before we end this live.
It
Um,
was a great time with you, Miss Linda. I
yes,
love
it
it.
was.
Thank you
So
so much.
a
Thank you for
great
having us on this topic. I really hope if you do open another I'm saying series. If you do another one, I hope that other generations can also join in, you know,
Right.
and have more discussion about this, because this is it's a very huge topic. We can go on and on and on and on about all of these topics.
Absolutely. I think I will, because I have another series as well that is called Release and Relate. And it's for you, it's a platform for you to go on and talk about anything that is you know, bothering you, whether it's in your personal life, your business life, work life, and you come up and you can, you know, either share it, or you can deal with, you know, you can choose to deal with it on your own. But if you do, then we can navigate through it with you and give you some ideas of what you can do to help you, and then you could pertain it to the situation and see if it works for you. So I'll have you guys you know, one day join on that as well. That's another series that I have
Sounds
besides.
amazing. I will look forward to that one.
Yeah, no problem. I really appreciate you guys so much. I chose you guys because I know that you have great insight, great experiences to share, and you're very engaging. So I'm very picky about who I have on my platform. I'm so sorry. That's
Right.
always been me.
All
And
right, that's okay.
you know, I'm like a mother to a child. I like to feed them the right nutrition. I don't like to just give them any scraps, you know, and to me, it's value,
Mhm.
quality and value. And so I thank you again. And we will have another live soon, guys. You have an
Yay.
amazing night, and we will talk soon.
Thank you, Miss Linda. Bye.
time.
Bye, guys. Have a good night.
Have an amazing night, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Good
Good
night.
night.